Start here. Newly appointed US Special Envoy to the United States Mcebisi Jonas has thanked President Cyril Ramaphosa for entrusting him with what he called an important but challenging role. He has also vowed to do his very best to promote a healthy working relationship between South Africa and the United States. President Ramaphosa announced his appointment in a statement early today, saying that he will serve as the official representative of the President and the government of the Republic of South Africa. Jonas has conceded that he is fully cognizant of the difficulties that lie ahead, but sees areas of commonality as well as mutual interest that could be embraced in order to reaffirm the long-standing ties between South Africa and the United States. He also called on South Africans to exercise patience and to allow them time as well as space to engage fully with the different stakeholders in the United States. In an earlier statement, President Cyril Ramaphosa said Jonas would be entrusted to advance South Africa's diplomatic, trade and bilateral priorities and also lead negotiations to promote the country's national interests. Jonas concurrently holds the position of independent non-executive chairman of the MTN Group, a role that he will maintain alongside his responsibilities as the special envoy.
An appointment that's aimed at accelerating the level of engagements between ourselves and the United States. The President has recognized the sense of urgency for us to work on enabling the resetting of the relationship between South Africa and the United States. And this appointment is targeted at that. As you have mentioned in your intro, what Mr. Jonas will be tasked with. So the process to appoint an ambassador is a separate process. Ambassadors often have bureaucratic hurdles to jump over. The special envoy does not have the burden of bureaucracy. He will be reporting directly to the President, working closely with the ministers of international relations as well as trade and industry on various specific issues that are pertinent with respect to our relationship with the United States.
Joining us now to further unpack this is SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena, who's here in studio with us. Sophie, it's good to have you this afternoon on these forever ongoing developments. But at this particular stage, has Washington actually expressed any willingness to actually engage South Africa, prompting this very move by the President?
Well, I think there's an opportunity for South Africa to continue to engage with the United States of America. Let's get our facts right. Only a week ago, the DG of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Zane Dango, including the DDG, Clayson Monyela, met senior officials in the administration and also a person who is also responsible in terms of advising on issues of security within President Trump's office, and also some officials from the Vice President's office and the State Department, that is the Secretary of State, the officials there. And therefore that speaks to there is engagement and there's a possibility of strengthening engagement. Secondly, as we speak, after the ambassador of the US in South Africa left, the person who was acting also left, but America has since appointed someone who is managing this office to show that they are serious. They do want to continue engaging with South Africa. You would recall at some point in time, there was a statement from the US Embassy in South Africa talking about explaining the process of the appointment of the US ambassador to South Africa, because people were confused as to how it takes shape. And therefore, at the end of that statement, the US was clear that we will continue to engage with South Africa. Now, you see there's that room for engagement. Yes, there are challenging issues, and I think that is why the President decided that let me get an envoy. An envoy can be anybody that the President think that that person is fit to do a particular responsibility. For example, the president appointed the deputy president, Paul Mashatile, as an envoy on Sudan issues. So he goes there, he gets information, he does engage, and then with DERCO and the president, they then come up with solutions in terms of how they can help Sudan. So that's exactly what the former DM is going to do. He is going to go there, engage with stakeholders, and the mandate is clear. This is economic diplomacy that he is going to focus on, not political diplomacy. And he will come back and report to the president, working with the Department of International Relations and also the Department of Trade and Industry, so that if there's now a moment for politicians to engage, I'm talking about perhaps the Minister of International Relations and the Secretary of State, you know exactly what to talk about. If there's an engagement between the Secretary of Trade and Industry in America and the Minister of Trade and Industry, including competition in South Africa, that is Pakistan, you know exactly what to do and what to say. And with his experience, he's already in business. He's a former deputy finance minister. We know that he used to embark on road shows with the then Minister of Finance to try and engage investors around the world to invest in South Africa. So I think this is about economic diplomacy.
Very interesting, Sophie, because I've kept asking this question because, of course, President Trump did tweet over this weekend, right? And he was talking about the unlikelihood of his attendance in the upcoming G20 meeting. So we were just wondering who exactly now this envoy is going to actually be engaging with, and maybe just also talk to us about some of Mcebisi's duties, which we understand at this point he will be reporting back directly to the president.
Well, you are correct in terms of the G20. One of the responsibility might entail to speak to the officials in Trump's administration to try and engage them why it's important for President Trump to come, as South Africa will be handing over the G20 presidency to the United States of America. But also based on the tariffs that President Trump has imposed on many countries, yes, a pause after 90 days, but you still have this 10% levy so that you can talk about those issues. Secondly, we know that AGOA has to be renewed in September. These are some of the things that he's going to talk about. And perhaps there will be a window where, as an envoy, he might be given an opportunity to engage with the highest office in that country. When you look at, let's take for example, America right now. President Trump has appointed an envoy. That envoy has been engaged in facilitating talks between Israel and Hamas that led to that pause. That person is just an American that he decided to appoint. And we've seen that envoy of the US engaging even with the head of state of Israel. I'm talking about Prime Minister of Israel. Only on Friday last week, that very same envoy of President Donald Trump, he went to Moscow to engage Russia on the current conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And he is an envoy, but President Vladimir Putin did open a door and met him and spoke to him, much as he is not a minister or state secretary of state or a head of state or a vice president, but he did. So it will depend on the US. How far will they open doors for the envoy? But the envoy plays a very critical role in conveying the message of a person who has appointed that envoy, and therefore there's a possibility of engaging with the most senior people in the United States of America to prepare for certain processes that might unfold, so that the president, when he takes decisions and when he makes announcements, when he decides on these issues, he's got a better sense. He's not reading on Twitter or hearing from SABC News.
And I hear there, Sophie, that apparently Trump's actually deals quite well with those. He actually prefers those special envoys being sent to him. That is SABC News international editor Sophie Mokoena in studio with us, and of course unpacking the recently announced appointment of former Deputy Minister of Finance Mcebisi Jonas as the envoy to the United States.